Welcome back, guys. We are here for probably one of the most exciting parts of the limited set review, and that's the multicolor. Yanks is on the call with us again. Welcome back, Yanks.
Good to be back.
Today we're going to be talking about all the multicolor cards and giving them a rating between 1 and 5 and how we think they will perform in the average deck. If you guys missed the first 5 colors and the introduction video where we go over new and returning archetypes as well, or new and returning mechanics as well as all the different archetypes that you guys can draft, make sure you guys go check that out. It's going to be where you get most of your information about the new things that are coming in Brothers War. But for now, we're going to talk about these multicolor cards. Let's go ahead and jump right into the Arbalist Engineers. We have a 3-mana 2/2 Human Artificer that when it enters the battlefield, you choose one. It deals 1 damage to any target, or you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains trample and haste until end of turn, or you can create a tapped Power Stone. So it's important to note that the bare minimum here is that this turns into a 3/3 with haste and trample the turn it comes into play. But overall, solid card. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, it's interesting that this is, you see like the signpost uncommons in gold typically, and this is just kind of doing a lot of things and not specifically telling you too much what red green wants to be doing. But all the abilities are relevant.
Absolutely. 1 damage. I'm a little sad that's not a 3/3 for 3 that also deals 1 damage, but there will be times where I'm willing to sacrifice that additional point of power and toughness to kill a 3/1, because there's a fair number of 3/1s or 1/1s in the set. A 1/1 I probably won't kill unless it's like that green one that makes 3/3s. That one was scary. But yeah, it'll do some things. It'll also help ramp you with some Power Stones. Not exactly the Power Stone color combination, but there are big prototype cards in every set. So I think this is a fine card to play. I'm pretty happy at a 3. What are you thinking, Yanks?
Yeah, it's flexible enough that I like it as a 3.
Great. Battery Bearer, a 4-mana Human Artificer. It's a 3/4, decent rate, that says creatures you control have tap, add a colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Okay, only artifacts, but that's okay. Prototype's a thing. And then whenever you cast an artifact spell with mana value 6 or greater, draw a card. Great. So this is going to help you cast all your big baddies, and then you get to do some really cool stuff and get some value out of them. This feels pretty strong to me, and this is in the Power Stone theme as well. What do you think, Yanks?
So this really solidifies green-blue as the Power Stone ramp color, because now all of your creatures are Power Stones as well.
Yeah, and even if you don't need to tap the creatures, because ideally you've got the Power Stones to back it up, you're still going to get to draw a card for all of your big spells, and your deck should have a larger number than normal of large spells, which is really great.
Yeah, you're looking at a ramp archetype kind of similar to Quandrix from Strixhaven.
Absolutely.
You're just looking to go very big.
Rating-wise, I think this is kind of a centerpiece of what this deck wants to be doing. So for that reason, I'm happy to give it a little bit of a bump. I'm feeling this card is much, much closer to like a 3/5.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. It's definitely more focused than the last card we saw.
Absolutely. Ties it all together.
MTG Nerd Girl is proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. When you use promo code MNG5 at checkout, you'll receive a free exclusive MTG Nerd Girl Vampire token, as well as 5% off your entire order. Show your support for her content and get this free bonus by using the code MNG5. Only at CoolStuffInc.com. Cool stuff in stock.
We have our first mythic in the multicolor. Now I know this is a colorless card, but we're doing this based on Wizards rank, like how Wizards put this on the website, but also it's got a lot of activations in different colors, and you'll see why in just a second. So it's X mana and 6. That's a lot of mana, even if you're only paying 6. And then it says, whenever the Serpent enters a battlefield, for each double blue you spent, you may draw a card. For each double black you spent, each opponent discards a card. And for each double red, it gets +1/+0 and gains trample and haste until end of turn. So if you're a mono red, for example, this thing is going to, at bare minimum for 6, just come into play for 8 for trample haste. If you are blue-black and you manage to go like 2 and 2, you get to draw a card, your opponent discards a card, and you played a 6-mana 5/4. This seems wonderful in power, especially if you can pay even numbers of any color combination.
I really like, there's a couple of these cards, I really like the design of them because it encourages it rewards, not so much encourages, it rewards a monocolor deck, but it also rewards you not being in monocolor.
Absolutely.
Because this one has 3 different options, but it doesn't specifically reward being in 3 color because that makes the double harder to find. But it encourages a few different styles of deck building.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that someone in chat asked if X can be 0. It absolutely can be. So you can just pay 6 mana for this and do the thing, which feels great. And if you have extra mana to spend, even better. So yeah, there's no downside here. I'm happy with any color combination here, even if you are, just in, let's say you're in blue-green. Are you okay to play a 6 mana 5/6 that draws a card when it ETBs? Probably. Yeah. Obviously, it's not going to be quite as powerful if you're in blue-black specifically, or mono-black or mono-blue, but I still think that this is quite a good card. Rating-wise, in blue, I think it's substantially better than any of the other 2 colors. Even if it shares, I want to make sure I'm in blue for this to really hit home. I want that card draw attached. The discard is also second best, but sometimes late game when you have 6 mana, they might not have any cards. So it's a little hit or miss. And then the haste is good, but, can easily be bricked, and sometimes it might kill him. You never know, but I think that's my least favorite of the bunch. A 4 in blue and a 3/5 not in blue. What do you think, Yanks?
I think in blue, if you think you can reliably get 4 islands out, I think this card's a 5.
I think if you can reliably get 4 islands, I agree. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. If you're casting this at 6, I think that's closer to mono blue. You'd have to be very heavy blue, and the average deck is probably going to be a split.
I mean, if you're casting this on 6, theoretically, even the split deck, your average is going to be 3. So getting to 4 isn't that unlikely.
But just as often you will...
Just often you won't, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this card is as long as you're getting some of these triggers, probably, as long as you're getting something, I think this card's a 4. And I think if you're getting at least 1 blue trigger, it's a 4/5. And if you can reliably get 2, it's a 5.
Okay. So I was thinking blue, any combo is a 4. Blue-black... 4/5 was where I was kind of at, because I'm thinking the average it's going to be a 6 mana 4/5 draw card, I think is where this is largely going to be. But of course, if it also makes them discard or also gets haste, then great, I'm all on board for a 4/5. If you're mono blue, I agree, it's a 5.
Yeah.
That would be
easily.
wonderful. Yeah. And if you're heavy blue as well, also a much higher, closer to a 5 rating. But the average deck is, I'm guessing it's going to be 3/3. And then I usually round down, based on that as far as odds, I suppose. I will never round up on that. So pretty close. It looks like we're about a 0.5 point off on every single one of those tiers. But for a mythic card, that's not a bad disagreement.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move to the Clay Champion. This is the card we actually talked a little bit about during the introduction. So this is an X and 4, very similar to our Serpent in the last one. It gets an additional, for every 2 green, it gets 3 +1/+1 counters. For every 2 white, you may distribute +1/+1 counter, put a +1/+1 counter on each of them, up to 2 other creatures, I believe. Yes. So for every 2 white, you get 2 creatures, each get +1/+1, which is pretty sweet. Very similar. It's going to pack a pretty big punch in the later game. It's flexible. You can cast it later and dump a ton of extra mana into it. I personally, of course, like the card draw more than One Big Dumb Idiot if you're in mono green, but still great.
Yeah, I think Blade Coil Serpent is definitely better. But I mean, this is if you're in mono green or have 4 forests, this is a 4 mana 6/6, 4 mana 8/8, which is absurd.
It is, but it just dies to disenchant versus Worm that drew you a card.
Exactly. That's left value behind. Now, if you're spending white, you could be likely leaving some value behind, but not as much as a card.
Yeah, I'm thinking in the average deck that's 2 colors. If you're in both of these colors, I am. leaning to a 4 and a 4/5. I want to give it like a half a thing less than the last one, but a 4 doesn't quite seem just like to do it justice. It's probably a 4 for me.
Yeah, I think it averages probably to that. And if you can reliably get either, quad green, quad white, or green, green, white, white, then it's a 4/5.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, Deathbloom Ritualist. We have a 5 mana Elf Warlock. It's a 3/5. You can add X mana of any color, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. That's a wonderful mana dork that helps you pay a ton of crazy things, including those crazy things we just saw. You could just get 5 green sources. That seems fantastic. And then you get to do a bunch of stuff. Yay.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you're playing black-green, but you're playing Blade Coil Serpent, okay, I can still make a whole bunch of blue with this to draw cards.
Yeah. Also, I will note that this is in green.
Yes.
And this is the set that we just finished green, actually. If you are on YouTube, make sure you guys go back and check that out. Green is the color with the most mana sinks in it. So, this sort of ability fits very, very well in that green realm where your creatures want to be paid 7 mana every turn to put counters on them and stuff like that. So if you're getting to tap this to activate all of your bonus abilities, it feels pretty strong. It is 5 mana for a mana dork, and that doesn't feel great. But in a world where all of your prototype stuff costs 7 to 10 mana, I'm willing to put this in my deck. So I like it at around a 3. I do kind of wish it had Death Touch or a little something going for it that it doesn't, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think your decks are generally going to have a higher mana value, average mana value, than you're used to in this format because of prototype, and because of the Power Stones existing. So 5 mana, yeah, not always where I want to be for a mana dork, but better in this set than most.
Absolutely. We have an Evangel of
Did we give a rating for that?
I did. I said 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Yeah, I think 3 is right.
Great. Evangel of Synthesis. This is one of the lords for the blue-black for 2 mana. Get a human cleric. That is a 2/3, well above rate. That when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. And it says as long as you've drawn 1 or more cards this turn, it gets +1/+0 and menace until end of turn. So it activates itself, but that's irrelevant because it's summoning sick. However, I think the plan is for this archetype is that these cards will trigger each other. So this one comes into play and it triggers something else that you've already played. You've drawn 2 cards per turn, it's going to activate. Then you're going to play something else that's going to activate this, and so on and so forth. So it's hand smoothing by itself, and the activation just kind of goes deck wide and builds a nice little synergy package. This does feel itself like it's not a centerpiece, it's not a payoff for the mechanic, but it is a nice free built-in above rate trigger for these payoffs that you will be acquiring in this archetype.
Yeah, I like this card almost more for the fact that it enables some other triggers than its trigger itself.
Yeah, I don't think its trigger itself is great. I like the enabler and the fact that it's above rate, which makes me very happy to play this card at a 3/5 actually.
Yeah, I think I still have it as a 3 because it just needs help. You need to be enabling something, but it is good.
All right, half a point off there. Falaji Vanguard. I don't know.
Falaji.
Can we just say regular words? How about some whiskey? Got any of that? Sorry. Stupid Rick and Morty reference. Falaji Vanguard, a 4 mana 2/3 human soldier with first strike. Hey, that's not bad. And whenever Falaji or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn, including itself. So it can just attack as a 4/3 first striker the next turn if you just keep curving into creatures. Feels fantastic. This is exactly what I want Boros to be doing. Go Boros!
Yeah, this is more of a traditional Boros aggro card than what a lot of this set has been doing with Boros, which is a lot of unearth aggression, but this also is nice with Unearth because when you unearth a creature back, you're actually getting some extra value out of it, even though it's going to get exiled at the end of turn.
Yep. So what are you thinking rating-wise?
like you have to be in the right deck, but if you're in red-white, you're already in the right deck because that's what these colors are doing. So, and the fact that it triggers on any creature and can hit itself, I like this as like a 3/5.
And it doesn't say only once per turn. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield.
Yep, and it's a soldier.
And it's a soldier. And soldiers is the card is the set that makes tokens in multiples. So there's a really, really good chance you're gonna be able to play a card that says make 4 soldiers, and you're just gonna be like, I trumpet blast all of my shit, plus make 4 bodies and get ya, and it's gonna feel fantastic.
And then sacrifice your red enchantment and give all your creatures haste and smash.
Smash. Yeah, I'm into it. Let's go. And there's also nothing to say that you can't just also have like a Bird Jesus 1/1 white flyer that just gets +6/+6 in a turn and kills your opponent. I'm into that too.
Yep.
You can stack these as much as you want, so not too shabby. I like this for the Boros package. It's a good centerpiece to help get the damage through. This is a 3 for me.
Yeah, I actually weirdly for Boros I have it higher as a 3/5.
Yeah, I think you need the things that make a lot of dudes. So, sometimes the Boros package doesn't come together and you have like a sort of underwhelming package, and then this is going to feel pretty not happy. But if you have a good Boros deck, this is going to play up massive.
Not gonna even comment on that one.
What happened? I said something dirty, but I don't get it.
I'm just not gonna comment on the phrase underwhelming package.
I see. That's fair. No men like to comment on their underwhelming package. So 3 to a 3/5, should you have the creature count? I like that. I feel like we're in the same ballpark. I'm hedging towards like a 14 count creature deck. But if you got the 16 to 18, it's going to be fantastic. Hotjar Loyal Bodyguard. A 2 mana 3/3 human soldier. You could sacrifice the Bodyguard. Legendary creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible till end of turn. I would rather this didn't have much text, and it's just a 2 mana 3/3 human soldier relevant creature type, and I'm going to rate it a 3 for that.
Yep, don't particularly care about that text, although I guess it's just bonus.
It's just bonus.
Other than I guess if they threaten and take it, that they have a built-in sacrifice outlet for it.
Yeah, that's true. If they steal it with like the red steel card or whatever, you're just like, oh, boo. But yeah, it's just a well above rate creature. What's up?
Yeah, it is interesting that it's a red-green soldier, since blue-white is the soldier colors, although we did see soldiers scattered throughout the whole set.
Yeah,
but
I
being
think that's
double
true.
off color just feels a little strange, but that's fine. Just a bonus.
Yeah, and there's things in each set that will affect other soldiers. So if you are in Gruul, then you'll get some static ability just like random throughout the deck. It won't be the soldier deck, but we've seen like, the last Boros card. That was a soldier in Boros, which red isn't necessarily known for, but there are some stuff in red. So I think you might just randomly find some stuff. Harbin Vanguard Aviator, a 2 mana 3/2 with flying. This better be a huge drawback. What the hell? Whenever you attack with 5 or more soldiers, creatures you control get a +1/+1 and gain flying until end of turn. That's not a drawback.
No, not at all.
This is a 2 mana 3-powered flyer that pumps and leaps your entire team. Big Ben is correct. Holy balls. That is the appropriate for this. I love blue-white tempo when they are creatures and flyer-based and not control-based, and that's exactly what this card does. Yes, thank you, please. I would like to play this, and it's going to win some damn games.
Yeah, talk about getting to leap things. Like, that's staggering.
Yes. Now, it does need other things to be on the board, but it's also just a 2-power 3-power 2 mana flyer, which is going to sometimes kill an opponent anyway. You're on the play, you play this, and they just like can't deal with it for 4 turns. GG. That feels pretty fantastic, and that happens more often than you would think. So, rating-wise, I'm tempted, considering this isn't exactly the go-wide colors, this is making all the soldier tokens, I'm tempted to give this a 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think that's just what it is.
All right.
Story time?
Story time.
So Harbin, in this case, is the son of Kayla bin-Kroog, who is Urza's wife. It is never 100% revealed if it is his child, although it is treated as his. It might actually be Mishra's, his brother's child. So that's a little weird. But he is a Vanguard Aviator. He is flying a ornithopter, or one of the newer versions of ornithopters, and what happens in the story is they are all scouring for raw materials because they basically stripped the continent bare. And there's rumors of this island, fully lush, forested, full of metals, but it's protected by all these storms, and that is the island of Argoth. And he crash lands there. And the Argothians have basically a rule that if you destroy, which are elves, if you kill a tree or kill wildlife or basically whatever, then you are put to death. And one of the elves, in fact, a card we saw in green, Gwenna, who's one of their scouts, spots him and finds a tree that has been blown down in a storm, does whatever prayers they need to do, and puts it in his path so he doesn't go chop down a tree to repair his vehicle. And he fishes, doesn't kill any animals, flies back, reports the location, and then basically the island ends up being completely destroyed by the two armies. And then the Silex Blast is focused there, and the island basically sinks into the sea.
So it might be his son, it might be his brother's son, was very like, you guys remember Pearl Harbor, where she just kind of like dates whichever one happens to be alive at the time? That feels very much like that. I think that's Pearl Harbor probably got the storyline from the Brothers War, I think. I don't know. Sorry. It's all I got. Okay, so that card was a 4/5. Hero of the Dunes is a payoff card for the black-white. We got a 5-mana human soldier that says, when it enters the battlefield, return target artifact or creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and not until end of turn. Some great value there. Creatures you control with mana value 3 or less gain +1/+0. So she is going to bring something back and pump it, plus pump the rest of your team. It's like a little mini lord. +1/+0, not +1/+1, so not as exactly as friendly. It's also a little small for 5 mana, but you're not casting this until you can bring something back. So let's say you're bringing back a 3-mana 3/2, which is now a 4/2. So this is a 5-mana, 7/4, which is pretty solid across 2 bodies. I'm happy with that. And lording up some of your other stuff. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, and the thing you bring back can trigger some of the other mana value 3 or less. When a mana value 3 or less enters the battlefield, triggers.
Or has an ETB or something along those lines.
As an ETB. This card is good, but we just saw a 2-mana 3/2 flyer. That seems so much better.
Yeah, this is an uncommon.
I know, but it's just like the fact that we're both 3/2 right next to each other. This costs 3 more.
Yeah, I agree. And just don't compare cards to that card. That card is stupid.
No,
good.
I agree.
This card is, limited lord. Let's go. It's a build around piece. You do need the synergy for it, which just like we talked about in the red-white one, if you're in these colors, you probably have some synergy with this, and it's not going to be too hard to get. So I'm going to just kind of assume you have a reasonable amount of things that will work with this. I think this is a solid card. I'm going to give it a 3, and it has some ability to play up if you have the heavy deck.
Yeah, I think it's a 3 just because it does need help, as opposed to some of the other cards we've seen that are just very good on their own.
All right, Junkyard Genius. We have a 3-mana 2/2 human artificer that says when it enters the battlefield, create a tapped Power Stone. And then for 3 mana, you can sacrifice an artifact until end of turn. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain menace until end of turn and haste. So for 3 mana, you're going to give a mini Trumpet Blast with menace. That can be game ending in these long, drawn out board states where you get multiple creatures and you're like, oh, 4/4, 5/5, and you're just nobody's able to make any headway. You play this, boom, they all have menace, and all of a sudden they're dead because they just simply cannot block enough creatures. I think this is great.
Yeah, the menace here is huge. The haste, not as much, because if you're spending 3 on this, you probably don't have a lot of things that need haste to attack that turn. But the 1/1 menace is fantastic, especially because it doesn't cost you one of your attackers to get there if you just sacrifice a Power Stone, which this provides.
Yeah, it provides it, and also the Power Stone is good for other things while you're building up that board, getting larger creatures. I think this is a great reason to actually have Power Stones because this is one of my Power Stone payoffs. I want to be having other things like the little lizard idiot to make this give me more things so I can trigger this ability. I think this is very strong.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure if it's a 3 or a 3/5, but it's in that range.
I'm leaning towards a 3/5 just because it gives itself a Power Stone. I would put it down if it didn't, but you're going to get one activation on this, plus you get some ramp in between while you're trying to figure out what you want to do with it, and then it just, blows up later. I like it at a 3/5.
Yeah, I think it's probably a 3/5. My only question is how wide are you going in black-red, but probably enough that this is worth it.
All right. Legions to Ashes. We have a 3-mana sorcery. Exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls, and all tokens that player controls with the same name. So, it hits multiple Power Stones. That's cool. But for the most part, I think this is just a 3-mana removal permanent spell, which is fantastic. That's a straight 4, only because that's just where our permanent removal is.
Yeah, it's premium removal. It exiles, which is certainly relevant in this set. The tokens are nice. Maybe at some point you hit like 15 soldiers with it or something. But yeah, mostly you're just going to be wiping out one thing.
Mishra's Tamer of Fawa, whatever. 5 mana for a human artificer. It's a 4/4. Permanents you control have ward, sacrifice a permanent. I love it. Each artifact card in your graveyard has unearth. I also love it. This card seems fantastic. This is like a 4. And also, I'm assuming this is story time?
Yeah, Fawa is the Falaji term for the legendary like the mythical, because they didn't think they existed, dragon engines, or dragons. So he was able to use the Weakstone, which you're seeing there, to subjugate, control these dragon engines that they discovered basically came through the Phyrexian portal that got opened in Koilos. And that when one of these things was on the rampage attacking the Falaji encampment, and was about to kill the younger new Kadir, and he was able to control it, and basically became the second in command who eventually took over once the Kadir died. Basically because it was all down to the fact that he could control these Phyrexian dragon engines.
Interesting. I love these and the dragon engines. The stories with them are super cool. I see the little Power Stone. The art is way more flavorful than art in other sets. And I don't know if that's just because maybe we don't know the stories as well, but there's less story. So I feel like they just couldn't be quite as flavorful. So this is really neat that we have this story and we're able to do this. Do you agree with the 4 rating, my dear?
Yes, giving everything that ward ability is fantastic. You're going to have a lot of things already having Unearth, but the ones that don't get it now, great.
Awesome. Even all the prototype stuff, which is cool. Queen Kayla bin-Kroog, 3 mana for a 2/3 human noble. For 4 mana, you can discard all cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. You may choose an artifact or creature card with mana value 1 you discarded that way. When you do the same for artifact, creature card with mana value 2 and 3, return those cards to the battlefield, activated as a sorcery. Huh. Cool.
Yeah, so discard your hand, put a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop into play.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to be not doing most of those things, but I'm down to sort of hone my hand in such a way where I'm not playing cards I maybe could play because I know I can play them for free and redraw them instead because that's just straight card value. So I'm just not going to play my 2 and 3 drop, my second 2 or 3 drop. I'm going to curve 2 drop, 3 drop, wait a few turns, play my 5 and get rid of it, and then discard my hand, right? And then get a refill basically. That's pretty neat. I like it, and it's a fine rate on its own. It's not a human soldier, but that's less relevant in these colors. So I think this card seems good. It's pitching lands. It's helping with everything. So
yeah, you need to be smart playing this card and not build too much. Not build your deck, but build your gameplay too much around getting to do this on turn 6 or 7 because it's a sorcery speed thing. They might just kill it, and then you have all the stuff that you could have played, and now you're just behind on tempo.
Absolutely.
But if you do get to do it, and if you just get one thing back, you're way ahead. And if you get more than that, it's fantastic, and then you can just do it again.
Yeah, I'm honestly really only looking to get one thing out of this. The thing I want to do the most is just not lose my bigger cards for the value. Yeah. So I'm like, interested in maybe skipping 4 or something to make sure I keep a 2 or 3 in hand to get that extra value and play something else like a combat trick or a removal spell or something along those lines. Again, to further empty my hand, making this a nice, perfect turn 5 or 6 play would be pretty cute to get a couple of free cards. So rating-wise, I think this is pretty good. It's going to depend on how many valuable 2 and 3 drops you have in the deck. Probably it's a little on the slow side. It's probably like a 3-5.
Yeah, I think it's probably like a 3-5. It's in the right colors to have cheap things. You want to be kind of dumping your hand. So it's pretty possible you might not even have anything that costs more than 4 or 5 in your hand.
It's also just a built-in thrill of possibility, right? You have the extra land in your hand you want to pitch, you pitch it, you get to draw a card. Now Thrill, it takes a card and a land to draw 2. This is just 1 for 1, which is, Thrill is essentially 1 for 1 as well. So it's just built-in Thrill over and over again, which is eventually pretty solid card advantage. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think I like this at like a 3-5.
Same. Saheeli Filigree Master. We have a 4-mana Planeswalker. Comes into play with 3 loyalty. +1, you can scry. You may tap an untapped artifact you control. If you do, draw a card. That seems wonderful. You can -2. You get 2, not 1, but 2 colorless Thopter artifacts with flying. It gains haste. You can protect her. You can use her to draw. You can use those to draw the next turn with the plus ability. This seems great. And for only -4, you get an emblem with artifacts you control. Get +1/+1, and artifact spells cost 1 less. Easy. Make Thopters, draw 6 cards. Crack it. Your Thopters are huge. Make more Thopters. Yay. I like card draw. I like bodies. I like flyers. And I like anthems. I love this card. This is fantastic.
Yeah, nothing not to like here.
4-5.
Yeah, I think it's a 4-5.
If you do not kill her the turn they play her, you will probably die. All right, we have a Sarenth Great Worm, 6 mana for a 7/6 mythic trampling worm. Says whenever a land enters the battlefield, create a Power Stone. Nice. And that's going to be great to fuel sack outlets and other Power Stone things. Now, it does take 6 mana non-Power Stone mana to make this happen, so you probably don't need a ton of Power Stones. But I'm sure there's some sack outlets for them here and there.
And there are 2 very important missing words from this cards, which what is not in there are the words "you control."
Oh. Wow. I would not have even noticed that. So you just get a Power Stone every time a land comes into play?
Yep.
Huh. Well.
Again, like you said, it's a 6-drop, so how much do you need? But
I mean, if you have any sort of sack, like the Rakdos guy, so I mean that's a Rakdos one, but if we can find something, if we happen to be 3 color or whatever, this is a really cool payoff.
There are mono red cards we saw that sacrifice artifacts for value.
Yeah, for +1/+0. Every time you sack, it was a Menacer. I remember that guy. Yeah, there was quite a few red ones actually that wanted to do that ability. And also, this idiot on the top is probably worth splashing. I could be Rakdos splash a green for this,
definitely.
Which I'm fine with. Yeah, this is quite powerful. Now, it is just an idiot worm that could just die for 6 mana, which happens. It's also, it's a 7 power creature that could just kill them on their own, possibly. Rating-wise, what are you thinking, Yanks?
I'm torn between 4 and 4-5. I think it's a 4-5. It's just very efficient and getting... You don't get the Power Stone right away, although you can play it so that you do. If you play it on turn 7 or something.
Yeah, typically creatures that do nothing when they ETB I always lean towards a 4 just because they're very vulnerable. This is like a big mythic, expensive mythic that's very vulnerable to just a common piece of removal. But this thing synergizes so well with the Power Stones. It's also got Trample, which can kill people on their own. So it does so much more. I think the average is going to play quite high. So I agree with the 4 or 5 on this.
Yeah, that thing is a house.
Skyfisher Spider. I don't ever want to look at this art ever again. 4 mana for a 3/3 spider with reach. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent. Oh, yes, please. Whenever the spider dies, you may gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. If you do, exile this from your graveyard. If you have no other synergies, which maybe won't happen, you'll probably want to keep this in your graveyard because you can bring it back. You can activate your other stuff cheaper. You can draw cards if there's creatures in your graveyard. So it might not want to, but if you happen to not have any of those things, great. You just gain 3 life, call it a day. But what I like is a 3/3 reach for 4 that also blows things up for something cheap. It says permanent, sacrifice another creature. You get any permanent. That's great. This is awesome.
Yeah, it is not particularly in the token colors, which hurts a little bit, but it's still very good.
I'm still playing a solid body, and I'm trading my 2/2 elf for their dragon.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a May. I just don't have to. I can just play a solid creature. I like this card a lot. I think this card is... I like it a lot. I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah, I think I'm a little lower, but not much. I give it a 3/5.
So my thinking here is it's a built-in bone shards. Bone splinters, right? And that's like a 3/5. And this is on a body. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, there are little things that make it a little different, right? Like it enters the battlefield. If you only have one other creature, they can kill it in response, as opposed to Bone Splinters, where it's just part of the cost, and they can't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and then the plus side is you get a body.
Yeah, and it's permanent, not creature, which is nice too. Yeah, I mean, it also costs 3 mana more, is also what you're getting the body for.
Yeah, that's value. I think it's more than worth it. But we're only a half a point off, so it's not too bad. We have Tanos the Toymaker, a 5 mana 3/5 human artificer. Whenever you cast a beast or bird creature spell, you may copy it, except the copy is an artifact in addition to its other types. There's quite a few beasts. I don't know how many birds there are. We saw the rock, and I saw a lot of beasts, even artifact beasts. There was a few.
Yeah, there were definitely a number of beasts. I do not recall there being a lot of birds. Going to quickly scroll through, but I don't see any of either in white, which is not surprising. That's not the color you would expect to see either of those in, other than maybe birds. Blue has the rock. I think that's it.
So, I don't think we need to count exactly.
No, I'm not
I think
you're just going through all of them yet.
Yeah, you're just repeating what I said. So, there's a few incidental beasts. The question is how good is this 5 mana for a 3/5? Let's say you've got 2 or 3 targets on the average deck for this. You're going to maybe get something. I'm okay with that. I'm probably playing this if I have 3 things it could copy.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's probably like the average play will be like a 3. It's like a 2/5 or 3/5 kind of area if you've got some decent synergy with the beasts. So I think it'll probably play around a 3.
Yeah, I think a 3 sounds right. Brief story time with this card.
Sure.
Tanos is... So Ashnod we saw earlier in black as Mishra's apprentice. Tanos is Urza's apprentice. And he's a toy maker. Basically, he is... When Urza is in Yotia, Tanos comes to town basically from the countryside, and he was apprenticed to a toy maker back home, and he made like these little clockwork, like spring-loaded toys that moved on their own when you just had to wind them up, that sort of thing. And some of his stuff impressed Urza, and that's how he got the job and ended up becoming his apprentice. He has kind of like an on-again, off-again sort of relationship with Ashnod. He gets trapped. He gets captured by the Falaji, and she's his interrogator, where he would have just been tortured and killed, but she basically manages to come up with a way to let him escape. Get back to Urza's lines, and then he's the one she gives the Silex to get it to Urza at the very end of the story.
I like the little turtle thing he's making.
Yeah.
Don't thank me. Thank nature for its wondrous designs. Cute. Third path, Iconoclast. Sure. 2 mana for
Iconoclast. Yep.
2 mana for a 2/1 human monk. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact with that's great. It's gonna whenever you cast it, so instants, sorceries, artifacts, enchantments, it's gonna make a ton of things. This seems very, very playable.
Yeah, I mentioned this we talked about this card in the intro video, but you buy Young Pyromancer in Legacy. This is just better.
Well, you have to be in blue-red.
But you're always in blue in Legacy.
I guess that's fair.
If you're playing, the only decks Pyromancer were blue-red decks, and this pitches the Force of Will, and that didn't.
Sorry, Young Pyromancer,
you're dead. And it triggers off more things, not just instants and sorceries. It's like a cross between a Young Pyromancer and a Monastery Mancer.
Yeah, absolutely. So rating-wise, I think this is going to be great. Every deck is going to have at least 7 things that are going to target this, because you have some instants and sorceries and an artifact or whatever. I think this card is great. It's decent value. You only need to trigger it twice before you get more than enough for your money. So I think that's fantastic. Rating-wise, probably a 3 in the average deck, because you might not have the payoffs for the full go wide.
Yeah, I think it's a 3 in the average deck. This is in blue, which is one of the soldier colors, so you could get some soldier benefits there. But you have to have them a lot of the blue soldier payoffs were at higher rate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a 3 in the average deck, but it can, the right deck it'll play out.
All right. Takasia's Dig Site Mentor. For colorless blue, white, green, you get a legendary human artificer. It's a 4/3. Creatures you control have vigilance and tap surveil. You can do that with all your creatures. That's cool. And then for a lot of mana, you can exile the Dig Site Mentor from the graveyard. Return any number of target artifact cards with total mana 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate as a sorcery. This seems fantastic if you're in these colors. I love being able to tap creatures that can't block to, thin the top of my deck of extra lands. And also just getting to bring a bunch of stuff back. This feels fantastic.
Yeah, and it doesn't even slow down your aggression because they all have vigilance.
Yeah, you can attack and do the thing. Yeah, this feels fantastic. Rating-wise, the graveyard ability is not a small thing.
No. It's super expensive, but you're paying 8 mana to potentially get 10, so that's fine.
Yep, and it's also an ability, so you can use Power Stones for part of that.
It's
in green, so you get some mana dorks.
Yep.
I think this is very reasonable in the late game. We're not going to want, let's say we play it on 4, they kill it on 5. I'm not going to want to activate this on 6 anyway. I'm not going to have enough artifacts in the graveyard for that to be a relevant thing. So I'm a little less worried about the mana cost. I agree, it's very specific and difficult to cast, but I'm usually going to be casting this in the long drawn out games, and it will be a game breaker when you do. So I think this is like a 4 or 5.
I agree. I don't put a lot of stock into the graveyard ability just because I think this set, especially compared to the recent sets, is going to be relatively unfriendly to 3-color mana bases. There's very little fixing in the land, certainly compared to what we've been seeing.
There was very little fixing, but there's quite a few creatures that make mana of any color, and there was also like creatures that come into play. Mill 3, get a land out. There was cards that like let you play land out of your graveyard. Like there's a fair number of things that will help you with that.
Yeah, I mean most of the multicolor fixing was at rare or above.
I mean, even the green fight spell, you could possibly just get the land you need.
It forces you to play a very ugly mana base. Which is okay. I mean, the card's great without that ability, so I'm not disagreeing with the rating. I'm up there at the 4/5 even without that last ability.
Someone in chat saying you will never activate this ability. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think you will activate it frequently, but you will activate it.
I agree. Yeah, frequently is not a lot. It's for that late game. I'm thinking it's like a decent rate creature on its own. It comes into play, it immediately affects the top of your draws and gives your creatures vigilance. This is a 4 for me. The half a point to 4.5 is the extra swing you get in that late drawn out game. So I'm not giving it a ton of credit, but I do think it can end a long game.
Yeah, I agree with that. Very brief story time with Takasia. Just that, I think I mentioned this in one of the other ones. She was the teacher and mentor at the archaeological dig of Urza and Mishra. And as we saw in one of the previous cards, it was her death caused by them fighting that sort of permanently broke the relationship and led to the war.
Okay. So you're just going over the story time from the red card, basically?
Yeah, this is where we've seen the first time we saw her as a character.
Oh, I think I saw her. Might have saw her some. Because I remember seeing Takasia's something.
Yeah, we've seen Takasia's something, but this was her creature card, so I just wanted to.
Urza, Prince of Krug. 4 mana for a 2/3 human artificer. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. Holy smokes! These soldiers in white and blue are artifacts. Oh my gosh. For 6 mana, you can create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control, except it's a 1/1 soldier, in addition to its other types. You could pay with mana stones, and also everything in these colors make human, soldier, artifacts. This is a massive lord. Lord ++. Holy shit.
Yeah. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact. You can pay 6 power stones to target a power stone. And now it's a 1/1 soldier. Oh wait, I'm sorry, it's a 3/3 soldier.
This card is nutty. People are gonna be like, oh, it's fine. She's got like 6 1/1s, no problem. I'm just gonna be like, now I have 6 3/3s. Oh, yes, please. Cost 6 to activate. It does, Scooter. Thank you so much for reading these cards for me. I really do appreciate that. With Power Stones, I think the activated ability is going to be super easy to trigger, and in the late game, it's going to be fantastic. Holy crap, this thing is very good.
Yeah, this card is fantastic, and I'm not surprised, right? This is a set about Urza and Mishra. Urza is the victor in the Brothers' War. His cards were going to be good, and there are several. And they've been good so far, and we haven't even seen the big boys yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card's absurd. I will say blue-white is not the color you're going to see the most Power Stones in. You'll see some in blue. White didn't make that many. But who cares?
Why do you need Power Stones?
No, just in terms of it's not the easiest color pair to fuel the 6 mana cost.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, it's cost 4 itself, so maybe you don't cast it for a turn or two, but like in the late game, when you get to those long board spells, I think you'll just start pumping stuff out.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't need them to play it. It's just they're not as plentiful in this color pair.
Absolutely. You won't be activating it more than once, for sure. Yeah. Per turn, I mean. Rating-wise, I think this is a 4. It needs a little help. It dies pretty easily. But I think that's very easy.
Yeah, I think it's kind of want to give it a 4 or 5. Just because it doesn't always, but it can provide value the turn you play it, just if you have artifact creatures already.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes if they just untap and kill it, you will get value. But Yeah, I think 4 is probably right.
A Yotian Dissident, 2 mana, 1/1 human artificer. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That seems like it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, can't argue that. Again, just like a lot of these cards, it does not say non-token. The Power Stones work, Soldier tokens work.
I cannot believe Soldier tokens are artifacts. That's so crazy. Yeah, you need 2 activations on this before you have been more than compensated for your cardboard and your mana, and that will not be hard to do in this set. Not even close. Green makes a ton of Power Stones, white makes a ton of soldiers, and this thing is going to just sort of build. And if you're curving out, it's going to just play like an aspirant, right? For the first couple of turns?
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, I'm definitely playing this. It is in the average deck, probably a 3.
A 3, yeah.
And if you get a bunch of stuff, great. You hit the jackpot. The Yotian Tactician, a 4 mana, 3/4. Other soldiers get +1/+1. Let's go, Soldier Lord.
Hey, more lords, because that's what we need.
I'm going to draft so fucking much Azorius. You have no idea. This is like my favorite archetype. It goes wide. It's going to be swinging creatures. They're going to be flying. Oh, I'm going to tempo. It's gonna be great. I love this. I love blue when it looks like this. I'm into it.
Watch somehow it's not good. I don't know how that could be possible. Based
I don't care if it's not good. I'm gonna play it
somehow.
Anyway.
It won't be good.
It's the most, by far, the most like supported thing. All of the things seem above rate. It can't not be good. If it's not good, I'll quit. I don't know.
The only problem with the soldier archetype right now is it is the most obviously supported archetype. So for the first few weeks, everyone is going to be trying to draft it.
Great. I'll just wait till bot draft starts.
Yeah, it will be highly overdrafted, I would imagine, for the first couple weeks.
Oh man, it's
just because it's so straightforward and obvious.
It's so good. Yeah, this lord is fantastic. So there is a lot of soldiers in every color, so token and non-token. I think this will have, in these colors, a ton of incidental triggers. Even if you don't build a soldier deck, you're going to just have 10 soldiers, whether you like it or not. I don't think that is going to be a problem. And it's a fine rate creature on its own. So I like this card. I think this is like a 3/5. It's like a key centerpiece of this build.
I think it's a 4.
Really? Yeah.
It's just big enough. It's not easily to kill. We saw a few things. Few of the red spells and black spells, they deal 3. Like 3/4. There were 4 damage spells, but this doesn't get killed by everything.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a range based on that number of soldiers. It'll range between 0 soldiers being like a 2/5, but that's almost impossible to do. So I'm going to say the bare minimum is a 3, and it's going to go up to the heavy build soldiers where it's going to play like a 4, and it'll be fantastic.
There are 26 things, common and uncommon creatures or things that are soldiers or things or that make soldier tokens. That doesn't even count any of the mythics and rares.
So many.
I think this card's very good. It's going to be hard to kill. Boosts so many things.
So Yanks is on the top end, 4. I'm in the middle for the 3/5 with that range between a 3 and a 4 based on soldier count. We are almost done with the multicolor cards. All we have left is the meld cards. Let's go ahead and take a look. The first half of our very first meld card is Argoth's Sanctum of Nature. It's a land. When it enters the battlefield, tapped unless you control a legendary green creature. Not super likely, but it's okay. We've got a few of them in the set. You can tap it for a green, and you can pay 4, tap, create a green bear creature token, then mill 3 cards. Activate only as a sorcery. So it gives you free creatures, but it mills you 3, which is a little risky to do in limited, so it's not a thing you can do a ton. But I would say you can comfortably, mill 6 to 9 cards, get 2 free things, and enable all of your other green graveyard cards, like that really sweet Centaur that we saw in green as well at Uncommon. This would be a great way to sort of enable that. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, it's also good with any unearthed cards you have. You kind of get some value there. By milling them, you kind of draw half a card. That's nice. Yeah, this is a good ability to have. You're right. You can't do it infinitely, but you can do it a few times.
So is this worth playing without the other half of the card?
I think so.
Without the other half, what's the rating?
I mean, what's the downside? It's tapped forest, right? That's the only downside. Yeah, I mean, I think without any of the meld considerations, it's a 3 for me.
I'm on the same boat there. I think that's very reasonable. All right. Now, the other side of the meld is a 3-mana legendary elemental creature. It's a 3/4 on its own. This is whenever one or more land cards are put into a graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. Okay, so these two things kind of activate each other. And there are other creatures that we saw can mill 3 cards and put them into your graveyard. So that's neat. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more land cards in your graveyard and you own both of this card and the land from the last one, you exile them and meld them into the backside of this card. So assuming you do not have the other side of this, is this card worth playing? A 3/4 reach for 3 mana seems great. You might get some incidental mill going on because there are a lot of green and Golgari cards looking to mill yourself. So I think this card is fantastic. It's a great rate. This is probably a 4 on its own.
Yeah, it's above rate and you get a few random points of life, maybe. That's pretty good.
Absolutely. So I think the past one was a 3. I think this one is a 4. You're playing them, you're picking them up, and if you can get both of them, you can flip it and turn it into Titania, Gaia's Incarnate, which is a legendary elemental avatar with power and toughness star. It has vigilance, reach, haste, and trample. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. When it enters the battlefield, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, even making it even bigger. You had to have 3 in the graveyard to transform it in the first place. So now it's just even more so. And you can pay 4 mana, put 4 counters on target land, and it becomes a 1/1, a 0/0 elemental, becomes a 4/4 elemental, and is still a land. Yeah, this backside is nutty. It's a little... I mean, it's going to be, what, at least a 6/6, right? Because it costs 3 to cast it, and then you brought 3 lands back.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice the way all of the pieces of this synergize with each other, right? Like, the land mills itself to get lands into the graveyard to enable the meld in the first place, and then they all come back, and this is even bigger.
Yeah. Which is more of a constructed feature, right? Because you're going to have multiple copies of each of these things, which is cool.
Yeah, and this is a mythic and a rare.
Yes. So ideally, you're going to pick one, the mythic, and the rare might get passed around because you have to be in green. You know, maybe people will take premium removal over that land because it's only a 3. So I mean, some of the uncommon build around cards might just be better for them. I think that would be the order you have to pick this up in. But I think they're both playable. If you can transform this, great. But I don't really think we need to talk about a rating for this because obviously it's some sort of crazy Power Ranger morphin combo thing.
All 3 of these, if you flip them, what you're getting is a 5 on the back.
Great.
But there's a reason for that. You have to. It takes a lot to do it.
So do I get a cookie every time I meld?
In this set, I think so because all 3 pairs are mythic rare pairs.
Excellent.
You know, at least in Eldritch Moon, we had one that was 2 commons.
Yeah.
Not the case. True. Not the case here. But what they do all have, all 3 of them, these cards, to different degrees, will have story time.
Okay.
So can we flip back to the land?
Absolutely.
So Argoth was the wooded island that Harbin, the son of Kayla and either Urza or Mishra, found. Was populated by elves and Sentinel druids. And was left completely untouched by the war until the very end because it was surrounded by these storms and no one could get there. Until Harbin survived, returned, and told Urza of where they were. They found their way there. Mishra, of course, had spies in Urza's court who found their way there. Titania, the next card, is sort of the voice of Argoth. Titania is... kind of, she's not a person. It's kind of like a spirit almost of the woods. So that's Titania, voice of Gaia. She's speaking for the goddess Gaia. And it has a lot of mystical power. And then if you flip to the meld version of the card, the last battle, or big sort of titanic battle on Argoth, is between an enormous stone and metal colossus on Urza's side, who's defending their encampment, and this giant avatar of Titania, this enormous wooded creature. And basically, the fight results in both of them getting destroyed. But that was kind of like the last gasp of the forest trying to defend itself before the other two groups end up fighting a full-on war on the island, and the Silex Blast blows everything up.
What happened? The forest spirit didn't come to save the day?
She was basically so wounded by everything that was happening. Her avatar was destroyed. Her land was getting ravaged. And everything that was happening was just wounding her and weakening her.
Yeah.
Like this avatar was her last gasp attempt.
Well, when you said the forest's last gasp attempt, I made the Princess Mononoke reference.
I've never seen it, so.
The forest, oh my god, you need some culture.
I know there's a big wolf-looking thing.
That is my hammy token, for sure.
That's the only reason I know that.
Look, I have a hammy token. Me and Princess Mononoke. It's a good one. Yes, so forest spirit, it looks like her hair's on fire.
It does. That's maybe mid-battle.
Where in the book does this take place? Like, how far? Is this the end?
Very, very, very end. That is the last battle is fought on Argoth.
Okay. Very cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the next meld combo. The Might and Weakstone is the first half. It's a 5-mana legendary power stone that says, when the Might and Weakstone enter the battlefield, choose one. You can draw 2 cards. You can target creature, give -5/-5 until end of turn. And it itself can always tap for 2 colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. So, fine. Very artifact synergistic, kills a thing when it ETBs. I think that is 5 mana, -5/-5 is playable on its own. 5 mana, draw 2 in a pinch that also then creates mana to trigger abilities or play your big spells. This is playable. I like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's cute, right? It's a pair of power stones, so it makes colorless that you can't use for non-artifacts, just like all the tokens.
Absolutely. And it gets to nuke something on its way in, which is more than enough for me.
And the red stone looks kind of like a maple leaf on the Canadian flag.
Yeah. So what are you thinking rating-wise? I like this as a 4 just because of that flexibility.
Yeah, I think I'm probably slightly lower, like a 3-5, just because neither thing is great for the rate. But it's very good. I mean, you're never not playing this card, and it's colorless, so you're playing it in every deck.
Yeah, I agree. Everything is like just slightly off, 1 mana off for the rate, but because I can do either or, I that's what I like. And the fact that you can also cast this with Power Stones makes it pretty cheap for the rate and fits very well into...
Helps.
I feel like everything that's a little overcosted for the rate, you kind of have to give the benefit of the doubt when it's an artifact because of those Power Stones. If this thing cost 4 or 3 with Power Stones, it would just be absurd. It would end up just being 1 mana, which is, kind of crazy sometimes.
Agreed. No, I mean, that definitely does help matters.
So only about a half a point off. We have a 3.5 versus a 4. Let's go ahead and move to the other half of the meld card. We have Urza, Lord Protector, 3 mana for a 2/4 legendary human artificer. Artifacts, instants, and sorceries you cast cost 1 less. I think I have a stone we might want to cast with that. And you could also pay 7 mana if you control both Urza, the Lord Protector, and the artifact Might and Weakstone. Exile them and turn them into something we will talk about in a minute. What do you think of this creature on its own if you do not own the Might Stone in your deck?
I think it's still good. I don't think it's as good as Titania on her own.
Agreed.
You will be playing a pretty decent number of artifacts, even in blue-white, which is soldiers. You're still going to be playing a decent number of artifacts, and this is a reasonably rated creature. So I think it's good, but not great. I think it's like a 3.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend a little bit upon how many instants sorceries and artifacts you have in your deck that you want to be discounting. I do like that a 2/4 pretty much bricks a lot of the things that are going to be going on in the first 3 to 4 turns of the game, to help you, stabilize against any more aggressive deck, although blue-white is the aggressive deck, so that might be irrelevant. So for me, it's probably... yeah, in the average deck, I think it's probably just a 3, but it might have some room to grow.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, and if you happen to get both of them, they're both very playable on their own no matter what, but if you get both, you can pay 7 mana and flip it into Urza the Planeswalker. You can Megamorph, transform, and evolve into this silly thing with, 5 freaking activated abilities? Jesus,
Yep,
you read this. I'm not reading this.
It's our first Planeswalker with 5 abilities and 6 if you count the static.
You go.
So I'm going to start with the activated abilities. So it comes in with 7 loyalty. +2, artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 less to cast. You gain 2 life. +1, draw 2 cards, discard a card. Okay? 0, make 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, and we're in blue-white. Okay. -3, exile target non-land permanent. And -10, artifacts and planeswalkers you control gain indestructible until end of turn, destroy all non-land permanents. And to top it all off, you may activate the loyalty abilities of Urza Planeswalker twice each turn, rather than only once. So you don't have to choose, you get 2 of them. Which means if you really wanted to, this ultimate's the turn after it comes out. Because you go +2/+2, blow everything up, and then do something else. Because it has indestructible and doesn't die. Like, this thing is nuts. It protects itself both in 2 different ways by making creatures and exiling things. It's card advantage. And it's incredibly high loyalty to begin with and just shoots right up.
I hate it. I mean, it's good, but I hate it.
I mean, you've done some work to get there. But...
I mean, yeah, and someone's going to do this and I'm going to cry. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And the funny thing is they didn't even give it 6. So you go +2/+2, and then you blow it up and you still have the freaking Planeswalker.
Well, it wouldn't even matter if they gave it 6, because you could give it +2/+2. And since you get to do things twice, you could then, +1, and then blow everything up.
Fair.
But
fine. Whatever.
But yeah,
I still
it's
hate
absurd.
it.
It's
right.
absurd.
It's a 5. Let's move on.
I mean, this, I'll do the brief story time on this. We're not going to go into who Urza is and the Might Son of Weakstone, because we've done that before, but the flavor of these 2 cards melding is because Urza was not a Planeswalker. He did not have a spark to become a Planeswalker. The spark belongs to Glacian, whose personality is inside, and spark were contained inside the stones. And those stones, when they were finally united and he destroyed Mishra and the dragon engine he was attached to, they protected him from the Silex blast that would have basically killed him, and gave him the spark, which basically, at that time, pre-mending, made him more effectively immortal, as old Planeswalkers were, pre-mending Planeswalkers were. They were effectively gods.
So that kind of answers a question in chat, is Urza the first Planeswalker? No, because there were other Planeswalkers. He wasn't one originally. He wasn't in the Cool Kids Club, but there was a Cool Kids Club. So
yeah, the first Planeswalker mentioned in terms of the chronology, I believe, is Dyfed, who is in the Thran. But then you meet other Planeswalkers throughout the storyline that are said to be thousands of years old. So between Leshrac and Tavesh Shazat, Nicol Bolas, Urza, or not Urza, Ugin. So there are some very old ones as well.
All right, so we got a big 5 Planeswalker idiot that I hate. Okay. Mishra Claimed by Gix. Got it. 4 mana for a Phyrexian Human Artificer that says, it's a 3/5 as well, that says whenever you attack, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of attacking creatures. If Mishra Claimed by Gix is a creature named by Phyrexian Dragon Engine, and they are both attacking you flip. Okay, so we're going to ignore all of that. So it's a 3/5 for 4 mana that drains for attacking creatures. Freaking fantastic. This is huge. And whenever you attack, it doesn't need to come into play that turn. It doesn't, it does something because it doesn't need to attack with them. So you can just play him, attack for 4, and drain and kill them. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. No, this is a great card.
This is a 4/5?
Yeah, it's a 4/5.
All right, let's talk about the other side of the meld. We have a Phyrexian Dragon Engine, 3 mana, which makes sense because you were telling us that Mishra was the controlling of the things. We've seen all the art, so his other side of his Power Ranger Mighty Morphin Foreman is a Phyrexian Dragon Engine. We did it! 3 mana for a Phyrexian Dragon, double strike 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, when Phyrexian enters the battlefield from your graveyard, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 3. And it has Unearth. Okay. I was like, why was, I didn't see that. I had to get there. Great. This card seems fantastic on its own. 3 mana, 2/2, double striker. And then later, when you have no more cards, you unearth it and you send in for 4 damage, and then you get to draw.
Yeah. No, this card is very good.
Yeah. It doesn't do much the turn it comes in. It's easy to kill, but because you can unearth it, and you're basically guaranteed to get to then draw 3 cards at the end of the game when you have no cards in hand. I love that. Is this just another 4 or 5?
I think it's probably a 4 because it doesn't, like you said, do a whole ton the first time around.
Mm-hmm. Still a great rate. 3 mana for a 2/2 double striker.
Yeah, it's a good rate. So I think I have it as a 4, but it's very good.
It's got to be very close, right?
Yeah.
Do you want a story time for Mishra and its dragon?
Well, let's see the meld card because that'll help. Tell
that'll
the story.
Complete the picture for chat. Holy shit, that's a lot of text. Okay. Mishra Lost to Phyrexia is a legendary Phyrexian artificer. It's a 9/9. Oh, by the way we flipped into this idiot is they both attacked.
Yep.
Which is a lot better than paying 7.
Yeah. Especially because it's a 3-drop and a 4-drop.
Yeah. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, choose 3. It's an idiot 9/9, which is crazy. Target opponent discards 2 cards. You choose 3? I assumed it was going to be like drain 1 life. You change your middle name. I don't know. But one of the options is just discard 2 cards. Okay, well, here we are. Mishra deals 3 damage to any target. Destroy target artifact or planeswalker. Creatures you control gain menace and trample until end of turn. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 till end of turn. Or you create 2 tapped power stones. Well, it slowly got more and more underwhelming, right? It just it opened up with this big bang, and then it was okay, well, still very good options, but this is so stupid. When it melds, is it attacking?
That's what I was actually just gonna. I'm wondering if it comes back tapped and attacking.
Exile them.
Yep, it enters the battlefield tapped and attacking.
Yep. It says it at the bottom of the thing. Oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, the story time on this. Mishra was slowly being corrupted by Gix, as you see in the Mishra card, Mishra Claimed by Gix, through to Weakstone. And he had slowly, under the ministrations of the disciples of Gix, started replacing parts of his body with machines to try to become perfect, be complete, Phyrexian style. And it was never really revealed that was happening in the books until this final battle where him and Urza come face to face, and Urza figures out how to cast spells, right? Magic didn't exist. And something in him, when he gets attacked by Mishra, snaps, and the way it's described with a word, he casts a spell that causes a little bit of a landslide and sends him flying back. And it looks like it might have killed him, but then you see he gets up, and part of his body is disassembled, and the Dragon Engine, the very first one from the beginning of the storyline, that it was in the card, the Mishra Tamer of Fawa, came up to him, and basically they sort of merged into one unit, which is what this is. So it is what is left of Mishra as a human, plus the Phyrexian Dragon engine, in the story literally meld together.
And they make this big dumb idiot that is going to ruin Games of Limited if people play it. Yep. But it is a rare and a mythic, as are the other ones. It's going to be hard to get. And both of these are very, very playable. Like the green one, I feel like will happen more often just because the land's pretty medium. Good, but just, people will pass it if they're not, in green or whatever. Whereas like this engine, even if you're not in red, is a 2/2 double striker for 3. Like I'm taking this. I don't care. Right?
Yeah. The fact that one of the 2 cards in both of the brothers melds are artifacts, or like pure colorless for their casting cost, makes this really hard. And worth playing on their own makes those really hard.
So yeah, you're not going to combine them very often.
No.
Okay. So we had like a 4 and a 4/5. I'm kind of like in the 5/5 range in both, but let's go ahead and move on to, I think, the last one. We have an Aeronaut Cavalry.
Nope. That was the last one.
Oh! I'm very tired. I was like, this is weird. We should have like some generic white idiot.
That is card number 1.
We've done it! We've gone through the whole cycle. Oh man, victory, and I didn't even know it. I was gonna just if you didn't say anything, I was just gonna
I should have just let you go and see how many cards we could get through.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we are officially at 12 hours and 17 minutes into the stream. Huzzah! You can tell. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yanks, thanks for joining me. What do you think of the set?
I like it. I mean, I was always a little biased towards this because, as anyone who's watched this could tell, I like and know the lore. But I think it'll be fun. I'll be curious to see if the limited environments for artifacts sets have generally been fairly good, not quite as problematic as the standard environments. So we'll see how it goes.
I can't wait until we get out of this like Brothers War Phyrexian area and get to like something else like Eldraine. And like 90% of comments. No, I'm not going to be sad that we're out of this. And I'm saying I'm looking forward to 90% of the comments being like, "Where's story time?"
Story time for Eldraine. Something happened and then Oko turned it into an elk. That's all the stories.
Every story just ends and you're an elk. All right. Thank you so much, guys, for watching for the YouTube channel. Leave us a comment down below if you liked the videos. Make sure you guys subscribe and do all that silly stuff I never suggest you do because I'm a terrible YouTuber. Thank you guys again for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. I'd like to end this video with a special thank you to those of you guys who have signed up for my Patreon. Without my wonderful patrons, none of this content would be possible. If you'd like to support this content and get your name up on the Wall of Fame, you can sign up for our Patreon by using the link down below in the description. Another way you can support the channel is by using code MNG5 with Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find cool stuff in stock. They have everything you need for Magic, board games, and any of your other nerdy hobbies.